Hello, and welcome to the first tutorial on how to use the comptrollers toolbox. When you first navigate to the site, you will be welcomed by the screen you see before you. Log in by using your Drexel username and password. This will be the same username and password you will use to log in to Drexel One. In this movie, we're going to explore how to submit a journal entry. But first, I will walk you through the application and explain the various components. On the top of the application, we have a toolbar. Clicking on the Tools menu will display a drop-down that would allow you to download the journal template. Using this journal template would allow you to load a journal entry into the application via Excel. Next, we have the Help menu. Clicking on the Help menu opens up a secondary window where you can request help from the Finance Competency Center. Moving down the application, you'll notice two panels. The panel labeled My Journals contains a history of all the journals that you have created. Clicking on the doc ID will display the workflow for that journal. Notice that when I click on this journal, it displays who approved. If the check marks were missing, then we would know the journal is pending approval at that specific step. They are four possible statuses: pending, approved, saved, and returned. The pending means that the journal is pending an approval. Returned stands for a journal that has been returned by one of the approvers in the chain of approvals. Saved stands for a journal that has not been submitted, and you can click on this journal to continue to work on it. And finally, complete stands for a journal that has completely processed and is now visible in Web Finance. The date submitted is the actual date the journal was submitted. To the right of My Journals panel is the panel which contains the journals that are pending your approval. This panel will only be visible to individuals who are approvers. Again, clicking on the journal ID will display the details of that journal. You can export the journal as a PDF, Excel, or you can even copy it to the clipboard. Clicking on the column visibility button will allow you to hide and display columns. Clicking on the documentation link will open an additional window which will allow you to download the backup for the journal you are trying to approve. Over on the Actions column is the drop down where you can actually take an action for that journal you are working with. You have three options. You can approve the journal, you can return the journal, or simply deny the journal. Approving the journal will move the journal to the next office, in this case, research accounting. Returning the journal will return the journal back to the submitter, the person who created the journal. It is mandatory that you have a reason on the journal for why you're returning the journal. Lastly, you can deny the journal. Denying the journal literally deletes the journal and gets rid of it. To begin creating a journal entry, you will start by selecting your chart. In this case, we will select chart D. Once the chart has been selected, you will notice that the actual journal entry form is now available for us to use. Next, we will select what type of journal we are creating. We will select journal type in journal entry research, since as of this time, that's the only option available. Next, we'll choose a backup for our journal entry. Backup is usually a document which explains why you're doing a journal entry. In this case, I have a purchasing card transaction that has been charged to the wrong focal. I will be charging the grant, which should have been charged initially. I clicked on the Add File button to open my computer's file browser. I would choose the file, click Open to attach the file. I will now start to input my journal entry. If you start inputting the fund, you will notice that the application tries to assist you on choosing the correct fund. If the fund is a fund other than the unrestricted fund, you will notice that the fund and org will default in for you once you choose a fund. You can also query funds by clicking on the small magnifying glass to the right of the input field. From here, I can simply start typing and the list will start to filter funds that have a likable match to what I have typed. I'm going to search for multi-scale, which is part of the name of the grant that I'm using. I can click on that line, and I will click on the line that I would like to use and then close that window to see the fund and org fill in for me. You can do this for any field that has a magnifying glass next to the field. I'm going to choose Fund 202118 as the grant fund that will be getting charged. I will then choose account 3220. In order to submit a journal entry, you must have at least a fund, org, account, program, and description. Activity and location are not mandatory fields. The reference field, though it's not mandatory, is a good field to reference the initial document that you are making the journal for. Notice as we try to key our debit amount in our debit field, the application starts to show you some visual cues to let you know that at the moment you are out of balance. I will put my description in the description field, P card charge 123456. Next, we will input our credit line. We will use 110124 as our fund, account 3220. Okay, by looking at my journal entry, it looks like I have a complete journal entry ready to submit. I have no red outlines around any of the input fields. So that tells me as the user that I'm pretty much ready to submit my journal. I'm going to click on the Submit My Journal button to forward this journal for approval. If I had already had a signature authority for this FOPL, the journal will simply automatically approve and be forwarded to the back office, which in this case will be the Research Accounting Office. On the Submit My Journal, once you click on the Submit My Journal, if you have no errors, your journal will be submitted and it will be forwarded to the appropriate approver. The approvers are based on the FOPL receiving the debit. If you have approval for the giving debited FOPL, the journal entry will route directly to the back office.